That soul is transcendental to all of these material conditions. And at the time of death of this body, just like when there is a car or automobile, and it is no longer valuable, it is worthless, the tires are useless, it is all smashed up, the engine is broken, you throw it away and get a new one. Similarly, when this body is no longer useful, you throw it away and get a new one. This is going on constantly. This is called transmigration of the soul. Now, how this is going on, or exactly why this is going on, this is due to what is known as the law of karma. Karma means action and reaction, cause and effect. Every scientist will accept for every cause there is an effect, for every effect there is a cause. This law of cause and effect is working throughout this material universe. Similarly, this law of cause and effect is working on the platform of life, of consciousness. As I am acting now, so I will in the future enjoy or suffer the result of these reactions. If I am acting in a very nice way now, I will get very nice reactions in the future. If I am acting in a very terrible way now, I will get very terrible reactions in the future. For every action, there is a reaction. For every force exerted, there's some equal and opposite reactions. This is just plain old law of physics. So this law is existing within this higher realm also. It is existing in the subtle realm and is existing also within the spiritual realm. So according to my present actions, I am preparing a body for my future birth. As I am acting now, so similarly, I will attain a material body in the future accordingly. This is called the law of karma. All of the suffering and all of the enjoyment which we are now experiencing is due to past activity. There is one verse which explains this in the Srimad Bhagavatam where it says that happiness, one should understand, comes automatically, exactly as distress comes automatically when we least want it. We don't want distress. Nobody wants pain. If I give you anybody here, I say, here, I give you a nice pain pill. You take this pill and you'll suffer like anything. Nobody will take it. Nobody will want to suffer pain. But still, although we try very hard not to suffer pain, still, painful conditions inflict themselves upon us at every moment. Just like here now we are sitting in this position. So this body is constructed in such a way that when you sit like this leg crushes on the nerve or the blood vessel that's going to the foot, and the foot falls asleep. Then I have to shift to this position, and then this foot falls asleep. Or I have to shift my back because there's a little pain up here. There's some muscle which is cramped up. And then I have to shift this way, then the other muscle cramps up. And gradually from talking too much, the voice gets choked up, and the throat gets very parched. Or maybe there's a headache developing. Or maybe there are too many flies in the room, or mosquitoes. We find this material body is always in a painful position. That is why you go to the drugstore, you will find 1 billion different medicines there for relieving every kind of painful position that everyone has. And we want to relieve the pain of traveling by getting very nice, comfortable conveyances. We want to relieve the pains of getting our food and everything by... No, I didn't mean it. Come on. That was good. We want to relieve our different suffering conditions because nobody likes pain. Pain is something which is not very pleasant, so we make all these different arrangements to avoid pain. But we can't do it. Even if we're very, very rich people. I had one friend, he was extremely rich, and he had such a big house that his parents gave him his own house of his own, huge monster house, because they didn't know what to do with all this money. So although he had everything he wanted, he used to sit in the middle of this house, and he used to call me up in the middle of the night. He used to say, listen, here I am sitting in this huge house with all my money, and I can't think of a single thing to do. I've done so many things. I'm getting bored stiff. Boredom is killing me. So we found, even though you get so many things, whatever you want even, still you'll become very bored. Because this material nature is such a nasty thing, a nasty place. This material world is made like that. Because as we have acted in the past, we're going to have to suffer those reactions in the future. And we can't avoid it. Just like pain comes automatically when we don't want it, similarly, happiness sometimes comes when we least expect it. When we may be struggling very hard to gain happiness, but sometimes happiness comes from another way, another direction in which we never expected it. And we are happy. We are feeling very happy, even amongst slight things, even amongst things which generally shouldn't evoke one's happiness. We become happy. This is because of karma. Happiness and distress are very much regulated by this law of karma. Now, this material world, we've just described some things about it, which make it a very dangerous place. This is described as dukkhalayam or shashvatam. It is filled with miseries and it is temporary. The temporary nature of this material world causes a lot of trouble. For example, the temporary nature of this body is causing us always a lot of trouble. Because although we want to make a permanent situation in this world, death will come and make it temporary, regardless of how powerful we are. Disease will also come and give us trouble. Other living entities will come and give us trouble. Or the weather will give us trouble. In different ways we will have to suffer. So, we find that this repeated cycle of birth and death and the repeated sufferings of the living entities are giving us too much trouble. Now, what is the solution for this? We find that this kind of trouble has now magnified and expanded throughout the whole society. And now the human race is suffering in various ways. Now, what is the solution? Therefore, we say come back to step one. To understand that practically and basically, I am not this body. I am a pure spirit soul living within this body. And that attachment to this material body means attachment to happiness and distress. And although we are spending our lives thinking we will get enjoyment, factually, enjoyment means suffering. Although we will get enjoyment, there are things enjoyable in this world, but they're simultaneously bringing about suffering in this world. That is the problem. Enjoyment and suffering are following each other in a tandem, and we have to go through life in this way. Now, actually, we all feel like we should be enjoying all the time. Practically, we feel that way. We should be enjoying. And we also feel we should go on living. And everybody will feel he's very intelligent and knows very many things. We have often found that even amongst people who are working on a dock or in the street, who generally are not considered by the mass of people as having great intelligence, when they speak amongst themselves, they will speak of amongst very highly placed things. They'll speak of philosophy or theology or politics, and everyone will feel that he is very intelligent. Now, why is this? Why do we feel like we shall never die? We know we will die, but we feel like I will exist somehow or another. I'm existing now. I can't conceive of a state in which I'm not existing. People feel we are intelligent. We have intelligence. Or maybe it is not manifested in this way or that way, according to university standards, but everybody feels he has intelligence, and everyone feels like he should be enjoying. Therefore, he works hard to enjoy. Why is this? Because these three characteristics are natural to each and every living being. Number one, we are all eternal by nature. We will not die. Therefore, we should not feel that we will die. This body will die. And I will change this body exactly as I change my clothes. But that death should not be feared. It should be understood and utilized in this lifetime for greater good. Number one, we will not die. We are eternal. Number two, the nature of the soul is full of knowledge. That doesn't mean everybody has all knowledge, but it means the knowledge we have is perfect knowledge. And therefore every living entity feels like he has knowledge, because this is one of his natural tendencies. And every living being is by nature full of bliss. Full of bliss. Ananda means bliss. And this natural nature of bliss makes us think that here in this world we should be enjoying all the time. Now, you take this original nature and you filter it through this material body, and then problems begin. When we are placed within this body is a covering. So this body will die. This body is not full of knowledge. There are many ignorances about it. And it is not very blissful. There are many miseries about it. So the soul has entered within this body and is using this body as an extension of itself. Exactly as when I get in the car, I use the steering wheel to direct the body. I use the foot to push the body faster or stop the body. I turn on the sound and I'm hearing. In this way, my different senses are extended throughout the car, and I'm using it to go here and there. In a similar way, the soul senses. The soul is sentient. It has senses. That is why we can see or hear or taste or smell or touch, because the soul is within, having these qualities, which are eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. Just like now we are eating and we are tasting. But if you take the cover off of this body, you will really taste. We've given the example often. It's like this is called a dhoti. If I put this cloth on my tongue, and then I eat something through the cloth. Now what will I taste? I will taste some cloth, and I will taste some of the food which has managed to drip through the cloth and managed to go a little bit on my tongue. So if I've eaten my whole life having my cloth wrapped up in the tongue, having my tongue wrapped up in a cloth, then I'll never think there's anything wrong with this, and I'll think this is tasting. And sometimes I'll have something which seeps through the cloth which tastes better than other times, and I will appreciate it more and want to eat it more. Now, if I take the cloth off my tongue, all of a sudden, a whole new world of tasty life. Then we're really going to want to eat. So, in spiritual life, it's like that the senses are covered. The senses are covered by this material body and the material sense organs. And by a process of purification, we can uncover these senses and really taste nature as it should be tasted. And not just this material nature, but the spiritual nature. Now we cannot contact the spiritual nature because we are covered by matter. But if we become uncovered from matter, we can then begin to experience the spiritual nature. And this can be done by a spiritual process. We cannot do it by a material process because material things plus material process means a material result. But when we add or inject spiritual process into the material world, we get a very wonderful result. That result is called Krishna consciousness. Now, what I'm speaking of, is the basic spiritual philosophy which you will find practically running throughout the history of India. Now, the way in which it is applied is a very easy way. It's a very easy process. It is a process of purification. And this process of purification means you use the senses in a spiritual way and purify them. And by purifying the senses, one uncovers the soul again. It is not that you have to create anything. It's already there. Within each and every living entity, this capacity of eternality, knowledge, and bliss exists. It is not that it has to be created. It has to be uncovered. And the process for uncovering is called Krishna consciousness. Now, what this means is very simple. When one chants transcendental sound vibration, for example, one can purify by pulling away these material coverings. That is why these songs, I begin by this lecture by saying it is spiritual sound vibration, because the sound vibration is purifying. Now this Hare Krishna mantra is very special because by chanting Hare Krishna mantra, all of these contaminations can be cleansed and pulled off of us. And we can come to the spiritual platform. Now when we come to the spiritual platform, what do we find? Well, on the spiritual platform, we first find ourselves. Us, the living entity. Me, you, all the living entities. But simultaneously, we understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. And the way to understand it is just like the way we may understand the relationship between the sun and the sunshine. The sun is the great storehouse and source of heat and light energy. Coming from the sun constantly at inconceivable quantity per millisecond is enormous amounts of particles of heat and light. These particles are streaming towards us and all through the universe, and these individual emanations from the sun, they are qualitatively the same as the sun. The sunshine and the sun, they're both suns. When we see the sun coming in our room, we say, the sun is in my room. But if the sun was actually in my room, it would be a totally different story. But the sunshine is in my room. But because it's qualitatively the same, we don't make a distinction like that. Because it is heat and light, just like the big sun, but very small quantities of heat and light. So this in Sanskrit is called the Chincha Beta Beta Tattva. And it is the analogy which explains Krishna consciousness. That we are simultaneously qualitatively equal with and quantitatively different with the source of all emanations, Krishna. Just like the sunshine is qualitatively one with the sun and quantitatively different because it is very insignificant, the sun is very great. One is the source, one is the cause, and the other is the effect, the emanation. So similarly, we are emanations from Krishna. He is the source of all spirit and all matter. Everything is emanating from Him. And we are qualitatively equal with the Supreme, but we are quantitatively different. Qualitatively equal means we are eternal, He is eternal. We are full of knowledge, He is full of knowledge, although the quantity of knowledge is different. We are full of bliss, He is full of bliss, although the quantity of bliss is different. Quantitatively, we are very small, insignificant. Qualitatively, we are equal. Therefore, self-realization means simultaneously understanding yourself and the Supreme and the relationship between the two. Just like when the sun comes up in the morning, although it may be very dark, you may then see your hand and the sun simultaneously. When it is very, very dark, you cannot see. Even the hand in front of your face when it's very cloudy, very dense. But as soon as the sun begins to appear, you can see the sun and your hand simultaneously. It's an analogy meant to explain that when you become self-realized, you see yourself and the Supreme simultaneously. This is the dawning of spiritual realization. Now the relationship between the spirit soul and the Supreme is one of service. One always renders service to those who are greater than he. This is a natural law in this world. Although the modern societies or the modern philosophers have tried to make some communistic ideal very practical, where everybody is equal, still we find all of these equal people are serving the state. And some few individuals become those who control the destiny of others. So in other words, practically speaking, we're serving someone else. We serve the army. We serve the boss. We serve the teacher. Or we serve the wife, or the wife serves the husband, or the wife and husband serve the children, or the children serve the parents. Or we're serving our friends, or our friends are serving us. Or we're serving in social welfare, or the society is serving us by giving welfare. Service is something which we find manifested throughout this entire world. Because love means service. If somebody says, I love you, but you say, oh, please do this for me, and they go, no. You imagine, somebody says, oh, I love you, I love you. And then you say, well, what are you going to do for me? And then the person says, nothing. And what is his love? Well, love means, here's a nice bouquet of roses. Here's a nice new hat. Here's a new car. Here's something for you. Or at least here's some sweet words. Or here is some nice company. Or here I will praise you to my friend. This is a natural. Love precipitates service. As soon as there's love between two people, there's service. They serve each other. And when that service stops, the love stops, and there's divorce, breakup, everything. So we find between the living entity and the Supreme, this love, bondage of love exists. That actually, our most lovable object is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose name in Sanskrit is Krishna. So this bond between ourselves and Krishna is a bondage of love. And when we engage in loving relationship with the Supreme, immediately we render service. Now someone may say, why should I render service to God? But just think, He's rendering so much service to us. All the time supplying us very nice arrangements of nature, all the time supplying us with new bodies, all the time supplying us with so many things. Now, when we engage ourselves again in this natural relationship, because it's an original relationship that has been existing since time immemorial of loving service, then we can become purified of all material contamination and go back home, back to Godhead, the spiritual world, which is a very wonderful place. It's a place where time can no longer act. Time is denoted by past and future. But in the spiritual world, it's ever-existent present. Here in this material world, the present is very elusive because it's here now and it's immediately gone. We are always trying to enjoy now, but the enjoyment comes and goes so quickly that it's gone. We're anticipating the future. That's what keeps us going. And we're lamenting the past. Because there is past and there is future, time exists for us. Ever-present existence is something which is extremely blissful. We no longer have the feeling of anticipation or the lamentation of that which is past. At the present moment, it is absolute existence. This is one of the qualities of the spiritual realm. In the spiritual realm, it is very beautiful. It is not that it is all void or empty. Actually, it is very beautiful. You cannot imagine beautiful gardens or beautiful trees, beautiful lakes or rivers, filled with beautiful creatures. And Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, is the most beautiful personality. And all of his associates are surrounding him and enjoying with him in spiritual pastimes of ecstasy. The Supreme is the supremely beautiful, the supremely knowledgeable, the supremely strong, the supremely renowned, the supremely famous. He has so many qualities in which he is the Supreme. We do not consider God as an old man with a beard, but he's the most beautiful personality, eternally ever fresh youth. He is the most lovable object of all of his devotees. The spiritual world is a very wonderful place, and it can be realized in this lifetime, in this world. You don't have to wait till you die. You can realize it right now by taking up a spiritual process of purification and simply uncovering all of this contaminated material body which we are presently living in. That doesn't mean you slice it open and throw it away, but you purify it by a process called Krishna consciousness, and then can again regain the original relationship between the spirit soul and the Supreme of transcendental loving service. So one way is the performance of this chanting. This is the major way of chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Hare is addressing the energies of Krishna. It's a form of address. Krishna is the supreme energetic, and Hare means the energies of Krishna, and Rama means the pleasure potency of the Supreme. So when we chant Hare Krishna, Hare Rama in this way, mantra, man means mind, and tra means that which will deliver. So mantra means that which will take the mind from this material atmosphere and deliver it to the spiritual atmosphere. So this transcendental sound vibration, it is transcendental because of the name of Krishna, can bring us from the material platform to the spiritual platform if we simply chant it. And there are other things. Reading the spiritual philosophy will purify the mind and intelligence and the eye. Hearing from this mantra and this chanting and this sound vibration purifies the ear. Tasting purifies the tongue. There are also wonderful flowers offered to Krishna you can smell that purifies the nose. In this way, the different senses become purified, and you can use your senses in service of Krishna. This is the purificatory process. So this Hare Krishna chanting and this process of Krishna consciousness is easily available to everybody. You can do it at your own home, or you can do it in association with us. It does not matter. You do not have to change drastically your lifestyle. Simply add the chanting of Hare Krishna to your life. And we don't charge you a penny for it. It is not that you have to put down some down payment and go on the installment plan to pay for your mantras. You get everything free. We don't want any money for giving you this transcendental process. It has been given to us free, we give it to you free. Similarly, we give you this prasadam free. We do not do this as a business. We do this out of love, because Krishna wants us to do it. Because he sees all the living entities are suffering in this material world, and he wants them to go back to him and enjoy in their spiritual atmosphere. So that is a very quick presentation of Krishna consciousness, which is a very vast science. Actually, if you wound me up, I could go on for a few more hours. Because there are so many very nice books, and they're all jam-packed with spiritual information. Just like there's material world, material information, you can just imagine how much more expanded is spiritual information, which is in a higher position than this material creation. So we would like now to give your brain a break, because I'm sorry I've been browbeating you so much. I go on talking too much sometimes. So we'd like now to give you a break. You can take this transcendental food. You can, one can say you can help distribute prashadam. And please, you sit. No, don't go away. Sit down and take this. It's very good. And then during the time of eating, we will play some music for you. And after that, if you'd like, you can ask questions. And if you want to go early for some reason, please don't go early. You can come over here and take a few books home with you, with all of this information much better explained than I can do it in this very humble way. You please come and take some of these books with you. Of course, the books are not free, because it costs money to print them. Otherwise, you go completely broke and they'll throw us in jail. So everything else is free. You just take your full satisfaction. We have tons of food, literally tons. We expected 3 times as many people. So you can fill yourself up until you cannot walk out of the room. We would be very appreciative to roll you out of the room. So just eat as much as you can. It is very good. Ready?